Welcome to the Savage Worlds GM podcast. I'm your host, Jared Savage Daddy Gunning. This episode, and it's all episodes actually, sponsored by Roll20.net, the world's largest virtual tabletop. Go visit them today at Roll20.net. Tonight, by popular demand of the G Savage Worlds GM Hangout Community, Supers. We put a post up asking for topics you would like covered, and your wish has been granted. Here to discuss it with us, as always, Jib from the Happy Jacks RPG podcast. This is Dave, the Savage Maven Scott. And Chris, the Savage Mommy Fox.
Yep, I'm super. Thanks for asking.
Okay, so I'm going to start off this show by saying, way to go, Chris. Awesome intro. I'm not a huge fan of supers. Did not read a lot of comic books growing up. Thanks to the Marvel Universe revival, I have some, I have some chops now after, 10 or 15 Marvel movies. That's enough for me to kind of get it.
You've been on a steady diet of 2 to 3 major motion pictures a year. It kind of gives you an idea.
Yeah, it replaces me only reading a few episodes of Spider-Man and Ghost Rider when I was a kid, but never a huge Supers fan. Not a hater, just not something that basically flips the cookie for me. So I'm going to bring that part to this discussion about how to kind of look at this from not a fan as a GM, but your players are, and they really, 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 really want to run a Supers game. So, I know Jib. Go ahead, Chris.
So we talked about this a little bit in the pre-show, but I kind of came in right as you guys were talking about it. But I think what you're going to hear from most people, I think Jib brought this up, was the problem that I did honestly feel like I had is I felt like I couldn't challenge my players because it was a Supers game. So I want to know what I was doing wrong.
Well, let's talk about it too, because that's a common conceit that I hear from a lot of Savage Worlds GMs that try to run Necessary Evil, that they get to halfway through the plot point campaign and their players are just owning them. And no matter if they increase dice or whatever they try, they cannot beat them in combat.
Well, I've heard it from not just the people who are running Necessary Evil, but people who are running homebrew stuff just using Superpowers Companion, version 1 or version 2, either one. And the secondary kind of thing that seems to always go with that is those GMs find themselves like head down in prep work like they're playing D&D, because it takes so much to design the bad guys just because of the raw way that the Supers arcane background works once you include the stuff from Necessary Evil or the companions. It makes those characters quite a bit more complex to create stats off the top of your head on the fly.
Right. I would say this as a non-Supers fan and GM, you could run a decent Supers game, which is the core rules. I know we say this a lot about all you need is the core rules, but all you really need, the Superpowers Companion, first edition and second edition, have some very good setting rules that kind of reinforce the tropes of the genre. So the Superpowers Companion second edition, for example, 2 things I love about that book. Number one, they have a death and defeat table. Instead of heroes never die, what they have is a codified table where if you would die on a vigor roll, you draw a card instead. And it just may mean that you're carrying levels of fatigue for 3 campaign sessions, or you're reborn. You come back reborn as a new type of superhero, or death is one of those options. But it has this nice soap opera type reason to explain why your character didn't die, but in a superhero world. The second thing they did that I really enjoy is finishing moves are no longer automatic. You have to actually, if you're unconscious, the opponent gets the drop on you, but they have to cause enough damage to force you into another incapacitation or vigor roll instead of just flat out, he's dead because he's unconscious. I slit his throat, kind of thing.
I think, and this is coming from someone who the closest I've come to running a Supers game has been with just the core rules. I think that the core rules option, that grittier street level game, is easier to run as a GM because you don't have so many plates to balance in the air. But I think that if handled correctly, even one using the Superpowers Companion can be, but it has to be the right group who actually gets what playing a superheroes game is supposed to be about. I mean, let's be honest. A D&D character who walks around with a longsword is just as much a superhero as Superman is. He's got armor that makes it so he takes blows and never goes down. He's doing a massive amount of damage every time he swings his sword. There's an aspect of just what we do as gamers. All of our characters are superheroes. So the Supers add-on shouldn't change the game as much as people let it. And we see a lot of people who will pour on, if a D12 is supposed to be the max strength, and in your standard Savage Worlds core game, your D12 plus 2 starts representing the Hulk, who has maybe 1 or 2 powers on top of that. Then you jump into the Superpowers campaign, and now you've got, that whole chart on like monstrous strengths and things like that. And then you start dealing with all the damage that goes with that. Now you have to write NPCs to soak that. Well, you're not ever supposed to challenge the Hulk with an enemy that's not exactly like him, the Abomination, that actually challenges him. The Hulk is supposed to be fighting tanks once a scenario, and then most of the time you're dealing with Bruce Banner going, "Dear God, I don't want to be the Hulk. Dear God, I don't want to be the Hulk." That should be the focus of your entire game session 80% of the time.
Right. The focus of a Supers campaign should be, oh God, I'm Peter Parker. I'm dirt poor college student. My girlfriend's mad at me because I never show up on time to a date. And
my uncle died because of me. The whole 9 yards.
Yeah, my aunt's in poor health, and we don't have money for the medicine. Oh my God, what am I going to do?
So yes, I totally agree. If you read a superhero story, comic book, whatever, the story is not really about busting heads. That's not what it's about. That's window dressing. Okay? Because if you make the story of Superman about him busting heads, the story's over in 2 minutes. Okay? Because, phenomenal godlike powers. Superman's story is about the disconnect between phenomenal godlike powers
move his face
and being human. Okay? The story is about the internal and external anguish that goes along with the things that come up with being a superhero. Oh, damn it, I have to lie to my girlfriend again about where I was. I have to lie to everyone about where I am. And I'm in high school, I'm in the hall, and there's a bully picking on me. I could crush him like a fucking grape. But I can't. Because I am one person, and there are 20 million of them. Okay?
Well,
simple things like, if you look at the Marvel universe, okay, or the Marvel mutant universe, let's take that side of it. Okay, it is totally pariah to be a mutant, to even be thought of as being a mutant. You are instantaneously totally outcast from society. There are people who will literally cross the street and go down the street to not be on the same side of the street with you. That's what the story's about. That's what the game is about. It's not about busting heads. Busting heads is window dressing. Okay? So make the game about that. Make the game about the emotional content, not combat. Doesn't mean you're not going to have combat, because you are, because superheroes, combat. But the story, the meat of the story, is about what it means to be a superhero, not the act of being a superhero. Okay. Now, as for, I can't challenge my players because they keep, butt raping my bad guys. Okay. This is a matter of economy of scale.
Yes, and at the same time, no. Think about, was it Superman 2, where you've got Lex standing there with him, and Superman can do nothing to him because there's no evidence that he's of any wrongdoing. Superman knows he's wrong, but Superman will be seen as a villain if he does anything to mild-mannered Lex Luthor in a business suit.
Exactly. Exactly.
Hold on.
You don't scale up, you scale sideways.
Yeah, time out for a second. I think the I can't challenge my players is specifically talking about combat.
Okay.
In Savage Worlds.
Okay.
I get that.
That's exactly where I was going. It's exactly where I was going. So
I just want to put a pin in this for sake of discussion. I'm not trying to weave you off or slide in. I just want to clarify.
Okay, it's fine.
We'll put
a fine point on it.
Okay.
I was talking about combat.
All right.
Okay?
The GM's going, okay, so I've got 5 people on the super team. They all have these stats. I've got my villain over here and 1,000 of his drones extras with these stats. And we start rolling dice, and Savage Worlds happens, and shit explodes. And I say, I know. Okay. Oh, God, that combat was over in 2 rounds. That was my big combat for the night, and it's over in 2 rounds.
Right. Which is going to happen. But first things first, okay, you got your big bad guy, okay? To make him interesting, don't play to their strengths. If your hero is the Hulk, he doesn't get the Abomination. He gets Mr. Mindfuckery.
Yeah.
Who is going to go, hey, Hulk, by the way, all of those civilians over there, they are bad and they want to kill you. Have fun.
Or a mind controller. Now you're this tall. You're teeny tiny, angry Hulk. Yeah.
Right. Okay. But the thing is, you hit them where they live, not where their strength is.
Right. Okay. And we've discussed this before as narrative consequence.
Right.
Applying narrative consequences.
And now, if you have that player who's playing the Hulk and you go, hey, Hulk, all those people over there, they're bad and they want to kill you. Go have fun with that. And the player goes, no, I'm not going to do that because they're civilians. Okay. I was like, I'll take your stack of bennies now. Thank you. Because you're not playing your character.
Well, yeah, so let's talk about that. Hindrances. Incredibly significant and incredibly important in a superheroes game, I think.
I think they're really important that you want to be even more in tune to those to make sure that when they're picking them, that they're going to have a game consequence.
Oh yeah, I was going to say
that's really important.
The real question here is not do hindrances matter? Hindrances always matter. Hindrances should be a central part of your game no matter what. But in a supers game, if the hindrances your players are choosing for their characters are the, oh my god, I'm allergic to strawberries, you throw that player out of the game because they don't get it. You don't re-educate them. You don't try to drive them to learn how to play in a Supers game. They don't get it. They're wanting to play something completely different. Go play something different with them. And then when you want to play Supers, play it with people who get that concept that, oh no, I'm going to be Tony Stark, and my hindrance is that I have metal in my chest, and every time someone takes away my superpower for any reason, I start instantly dying.
Right.
I'm a drastic alcoholic, and I'm going to take fatigue penalties every time I can't get to booze. There has to be a mechanical bite in the game every session from those hindrances.
Everything has to bite. Everything has to bite.
Superman has to have code of honor or vow major, protect humans, whatever. Right. Yeah.
And the double major hindrance, weakness to kryptonite.
Weakness to your own planet.
Good point.
Sucks to be you.
Yeah.
You know, but the thing is, but this is coming back to the premise we said a minute ago. Hit them where they live.
The other thing I would say for combat, specifically, if you're the GM saying, I can't challenge my players in combat, you're the one doing it wrong, not your players. And what you're doing wrong is you're forgetting that in a superhero's comic book, it's actually pretty rare that the hero loses in straight-up combat. In almost every one of the superhero comic books, when they lose is when something narratively causes them to lose after they've mowed down the entire enemy army of extras and bad guys and drones and Chitauri that came from the sky and sky worms. But then you've got Loki standing there with the endgame gem that makes him immune until they can take that away.
Right. But at the same time, those drones, those Chitauri, those, you know, those extras are competent. They're not just blades of grass to be mowed through. They're competent and they're deadly.
Oh yeah. Savage worlds can happen even with the incompetent ones, but if you throw your players up against, you know, decently competent, you know, hordes, somebody's going to catch a case of, ow, that hurt real quick.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so your hero has, you know, DR4 because, you know, he's got some kind of invulnerability. He's got DR4. Okay.
He's got what? I'm sorry, he's got what?
Damage resistance 4. He ignores his first 4 points.
Yeah, I know it's not part of Savage, but I understood the reference. I'm just kind of calling it out.
It gets 4 points of armor added to his toughness, just like armor always does.
I believe they actually still call it DR or damage resistance. It just adds to armor in the Superpowers.
I think it does. But anyway, okay.
Again, Superpowers Companion adds so many additional rules, even I don't know most of them.
An M16 does 2d8?
2d8.
2d8 damage. That can still suck when you got 4 points of armor going on.
How much does a rifle do? 2d8. Okay. Sniper rifle? 2d8. Oh, okay.
Big rifle.
Well,
2d8
yeah.
to a large
you know, some of them do 2d10.
My point is that all those drones. If I'm the big evil bad guy, and I know that I've got these, you know, superheroes, and first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find out what their abilities are. This is also a trope of superhero games where the bad guy goes, I'm going to do things to find out what you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then once I know what you can do, I'm going to equip my soldiers with things that can hurt you.
Well, I would say that you're big bad, and Dave brings up a good point. As a GM, guess what? Your players are supposed to whoop your bad guy's ass. They're the heroes of the story. They're supposed to whoop ass.
They are. They absolutely are. But we want to make it hard for them.
Right. As a GM, you're not supposed to win with your big bad. This isn't
We've said this before. If you're the GM and you're thinking you're going to win, you're doing it wrong.
Stop and think about like the most epic thing that we've seen in a superhero movie as far as like the villain in a long time was probably Heath Ledger's The Joker. And in that, he gets caught so that he can execute the plan. Getting caught by the good guys is part of the big bad's plan. Come on, guys. You're supposed to have your big bads getting their butt whooped and then still coming back and laying the smackdown on the heroes because of narrative shit that's happening in the game.
Right.
Oh, I'm just going to add real quick, even though we're 20-some minutes into the show, forgot to put it at the top. If we don't have Q&A live anymore as a capability, if you have a question, you have a comment, you want to speak up, savagedaddy@gmail.com if you're watching the live stream. Okay, so let's talk here, because how would you go about running, setting up? Let's say I'm going to run plan on running an 8 to 10 session Supers mini campaign.
Okay.
And I kind of want to approach it from two angles. I'm going to run it with just the core rules, because all I'm looking for is a golden era street level kind of superhero. I'm not looking for Marvel Universe Titan level.
So we're talking
whatever.
Golden Age Batman.
Yeah, like kind of Golden Age Batman, 1940s, or maybe even a gritty street level, like the Punisher, something very kind of like semi-decently powered.
Okay, Punisher, Daredevil. Got it.
Yeah, that kind of thing. The players have one. Yeah, the heroes have one or two, superpowers along a theme of fire or whatever.
Yeah, Marvel Knights is a good example of this. The old 1980s X-Men cartoon where that you've got Iceman and he's sliding around on his little ice thing, and that's really all he can do is that and throw ice around. It's
right.
Very, very, these characters are on point, on the nose with what their power does.
Right. And then I want to run that same type of adventure, maybe amped up a little bit with the Superpowers Companion. Because I want to compare and contrast for the GMs who are thinking, hey, you know what? I'd like to get me into some supers and run some supers.
Okay.
So let's take it from the core rule version first. So with the core rule version, I would say that you would probably want to add a few or select a few setting rules to begin with. Blood and Guts being one of them. Let them spend bennies to reroll damage.
Yep, Heroes Never Die.
Heroes Never Die. Probably another good one. Mm-hmm. Unless you're running that really dark, gritty one, then maybe you don't put in Heroes Never Die. Critical failures, maybe? Not so much. No, not really. Not in Super game.
I wouldn't say critical failures because there's a superhero. They can Benny out of shit.
On the other hand, can be fun.
Critical failure.
That's true.
So remember, critical failure does not say the worst thing possible happens.
Right.
Critical failure just means I can't re-roll that with a Benny. That in and of itself makes it a very superhero thing right there, because occasionally the superhero just can't save the girl or just can't do the thing. And then they have to deal with the ramifications thereof.
Gwen Stacy is falling down through the tower, and, Spidey webs her right at the last second, saves her from impacting the ground, but, damn. The jarring stop snaps her spine, and she dies.
Well, I don't think that's what we're talking about. When we're talking about gritty, critical doesn't mean horrible consequence. It just means...
to a certain extent it is. If failure is she's going to smack into the pavement and you roll double ones, well, you put the web out, but she still smacks into the pavement as the trampoline stretch.
Or you're swinging across the Hudson Bay and no webbing, and gets out halfway and fall into the drink, right? I mean, whatever. Yeah. Okay, so maybe critical failure. is good. I would say always. I'm just a fan of Joker's Wild. It's just always such a table pleaser. So I would definitely say throw in Joker's Wild. Fanatics makes absolute sense in a superheroes game. Sure. Where your big bad will jump, their minions will jump in front.
Okay, but I do want to point out, most people play Fanatics wrong. Fanatics is every time the big bad gets hit.
Right.
A minion will get in the way of that hit. Whereas the Heroes Never Die covers the big bad having the last minute save of the drone that jumps in the way, and then he ducks out and disappears into a puff of smoke as the android falls over dead. So be careful with Fanatics. I would more suggest and I'm going to blank on the frickin' name of it, but the one where you get to reroll damage.
Blood and Guts.
Blood and Guts. Blood and Guts. Because here again, you're talking about a game where when combat happens, it's supposed to be bombastic. So you probably want to allow them to spend those bennies in those locations.
As far as hindrances go, I would give all your bad guys. And here's the thing: they could be monologuers. That's in this. There's a complete codification of that in the Sci-Fi Companion or the Super's Companion. But without the Super's Companion, they can just be habit minor monologuer. You can just say, hey, they get this bad habit of when they think they got the heroes where they want them, right before when they should be delivering the final blow. They start to gloat about how stupid they are, about how they have no way of getting out. It's
how weak, evil that they are in comparison to him.
It's the Dr. Evil thing in the first Austin Powers movie, where I got a gun, I'll just shoot him. No, you don't get it. I'm going to place them in an elaborately, easily escapable death trap and walk away and assume everything goes to plan. What's the problem? But I've got to just shoot him in the head. So that could be all handled with the minor habit hindrance.
I would say that's major habit hindrance myself. Because they start to suffer penalties if they don't do it.
Or quirk.
Again, I'm looking, we've already said, there's that bite. Major habit. If the bad guy doesn't deliver his monologue speech, he's got to get fatigued. If you've got a player who's playing the upright stand-up leader, absolutely have him take habit major monologuer. And if he doesn't lecture the bad guy about all the things the bad guy did wrong, he gets a level of fatigue.
Okay, that works. So instead of it being a substance in a time period, it's a situation and an action. Gotcha. Okay. Yes, absolutely. Okay,
and if you don't satisfy it.
Yeah, you start to get fatigue. If you don't satisfy it, you could, it causes problems.
Mechanical bite.
Right.
Okay. I want to make sure I throw this in there. A Supers game is about the suffering of the heroes. Being a superhero is not a fun thing. Look at your Marvel, your DC roster. All of them have lost a parent, lost a family member, lie to their family constantly. If you're going to play this, you're only going to use core rules. You've got to find those core rules that you can tap into that make the characters suffer every living moment of being the superhero.
And my first thought was, you give them fatigue, somebody's going to be going, how does not monologuing give them fatigue? And you have to coach that with, well, you're not like drained, but you're fidgety. You're not paying attention. You're thinking too much about, I should have monologued. I should have done this, and I'm going to do this next time. And
you're suffering manic depression.
Right. You coach it the right way. You don't just say, oh, you're fatigued. Well, how am I fatigued? Why does me not monologuing give me fatigue? Well, it's these different things that are causing you to feel that way.
It's too easy a trap for GMs to fall into to just speak in game terms. We talked about this before. You speak in narrative terms and in evocative terms of the genre that you're after.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. Wait, let's revisit that topic here then again very briefly. For example, let's do a scenario real quick of we're the teen Justice League, whatever they call them. I want to say sponsor club, like Candy Striper Club, whatever. We're like Bush League
Junior Avengers.
We're Bush League teenage heroes, and we each have one little minuscule power each, and we face.
You're not talking about the Teen Titans, are you?
No. I'm trying. There used to be a term, and I'm just drawing a blank on it, so I'm going with something else. But I want to say rally or booster team, booster league, something like that. Whatever.
The B team.
The B team.
Yeah, let's see. You're more along the lines of the Z team. Your teenagers. This is your first mission. You get the bad guy, the big bad guy, cornered. How do we talk about in narrative terms in that situation, Jim?
Well, okay, so you've raced up to the top of the tallest skyscraper in Halcyon City, the Prism building. You know, those of you who can fly are just landing on the top, and those of you who ran up are either just running up the side of the building over the side, or have just burst through the doors from the stairwell onto the roof as
Dr. Hoodie
grabs the dead man switch for the mega bomb that will destroy Halcyon City. Go.
Okay, so I'm going to make a fighting attack. I'm going to roll my D6 fighting.
Tink! Boom!
You just blew up the city and all the civilians in it. And
I charge at him I double my fist and charge at him and swing wildly. And then you make your fight.
Put some dice down.
Well, and I think the other thing is, as a GM, don't be afraid to remind the player in that moment of the consequences of that action. You're about to hit the police chief. You're about to hit somebody who, if they die, this city blows up. Remind them of that double-edged sword. You're a vigilante. The police are coming. What are you going to do? You have 5 rounds to resolve this.
Right. Okay.
Man has a gun to her head, Johnny. What do you do?
Shoot the hostage.
Save me!
So the interesting thing I like about the superpowers arcane background in core that I think is unique and really interesting for a Supers game, you do not have an arcane skill. You buy the power and invest it as an arcane skill, and you make those rolls with that die.
Nothing, and I mean nothing, in any role-playing game out there will capture the feel of a player only wanting 1 or 2 powers. Like them having to spend other advances to raise each and every power up a couple of dice to bring it up to be as effective as the power they started with in character creation. When they start realizing, oh God, that's going to be 20 XP later before I can get that to a point where
I won't even make any difference. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to have a D4 in this. Great.
So let's create.
Then, because if you want to be a true GMing asshole, you can't spend points on that power unless you use it. So when you get advances, if you have not used that power, you haven't trained with it. You haven't practiced with it. You don't get to raise it.
It was only a D4, but because you didn't use it,
it stays a D4.
Hey, that's core rules, damn it.
That's not core.
That's what the guy.
That's what he said. If you want to be a dick,
that's something you talk about before you start playing this game.
Right. So how do you build this superhero character at core level? The core rules like we're talking about, just like you do every other character in Savage Worlds. The exception is they all get to start with arcade background superhero for free. I would also use the Born a Hero setting rule from core to allow them to pick beyond the core. Now, so I'm going to create Spider Gal. That's going to be my character concept, Spider Gal. And so I'm going to take wall climbing and bolt. That's my powers. Now I have to buy those powers as edges.
Right.
New power, edge.
And then that same 15 points you get to spend on all of your skills, spend some of those on wall crawling and bolt to be any good at them, which means you're not taking something else, like shooting, like notice, persuade,
like driving.
I'm going to have a D4 -2 in my primary powers.
So I'm going to spend.
I don't need dice.
I'm going to spend 2 points of skill points at character creation on the skill wall crawling to get a D6 because it has no linked attribute. Then I'm going to spend another 2 points to get bolt at up to a D6, and now I can climb walls and I can shoot spider web bolts. Done. That's the extent of the character. Now, it doesn't seem like much, but here's what you're going to experience. This is why, as a GM or a player, this is ideal for a low level, like Golden Age or not very overpowered Supers game. You just dropped 4 points of your skill points out of 15, and you burnt 2 edges at character creation just to create the superpower portion. Then you get to advance those skills. You have to keep buying, like spending advance points to get those superpowered skills up. The nice thing is when you fail to roll, there's no backlash. Nothing bad happens. It either just works or it doesn't.
The other benefit you get is you do get to start with about twice as many power points as anybody else. Right. So you're going to be able to use that power more often. But by the same token, it's because you're not going to be shooting or fighting or doing these other things because you didn't have enough skill points to buy that too. So be cognizant of the effect it's going to have on the character. Again, though, I think that it does make a very focused experience for that hero. You're not going to have a hero who has 12 different powers with that particular arcade background. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah, and you want to kind of think along the lines of a superhero theme, as also applying to trappings as well. The same thing you would apply to trappings, apply to the superhero theme.
Yep.
Even if it's a weird science trapping, even if it's like, well, I'm the gadgeteer type guy. Okay, superpower. I don't care. It's a gadget, whatever. But go ahead and buy the power. But you're not going to use any other arcane background except superpowers for the supers. So just put that out there, because if you put a character with arcane background superpower in the same game with a normal arcane background weird science, that guy's going to be Tony Stark compared to Robin.
not just Robin, Golden Age Robin.
Yeah.
Well, now the caveat here is that there's a really good chance that if you do have those two comparable characters, they're going to be shining in completely different moments. because the Tony Stark character can have all his shit taken away while the superpowers character can't, because his is all innate. You always think about that, what Jim was talking about earlier. Hit them where they live. If you've got a character who takes that arcane background superpowers and they built up this great spider theme, that's amazing. So now we're going to challenge them with things that don't have anything to do with wall crawling or shooting web bolts. But if you've built that character that's the weird science guy with all these gadgets, we're absolutely taking his gadgets away and then seeing what he can accomplish.
Right. At the same time, you want to let them use their powers because that's what they made them for.
Sure.
So you want to give them excuses.
Most definitely. You want to make sure they have that opportunity.
Right. So, we've got the Hulk and the brain guy, right? Well, the problem is that the brain guy's got no toughness whatsoever. He's squishy. So if the Hulk does the Hulk thing, he squishes.
It's a bad day to be a brain guy.
Bad guy,
To be fair, the brain guy knows this about the Hulk and is sitting behind waves of tanks and an indestructible bunker.
Right.
Make
and then
sure
when the
you give
Hulk
a
fights
challenge.
through the waves of tanks and bad guys and and smashes through the indestructible wall, that's that moment, that shining moment in Supers when the bad guy goes, wait, how'd you do?
But you've given the Hulk that ability to smash the tanks, to smash the indestructible wall. That's where he really gets to shine with that superpower he bought for the character. But the challenge was whatever it was that he faced before he did all of that, where the brain guy used the manipulative powers on him. Or once he gets past it all, then the brain guy zots him. And now he has control and the Hulk turns on his teammates. Puppet at the last minute. The Hulk has been the breadwinner. He's gotten them through past all the bad guys. And now Jared's sitting here with the little wall crawler with spider bolts, and he's now being punched by the Hulk, and he didn't buy extra toughness.
Right. The best you can do is try to trip him up, crawl out of the way. Yeah. Right.
Drag his beaten and battered carcass out of.
I mean, and from that point on, you're done in core rules. I mean, all the core rules are there for grapple, things like that. If you want to, I'm just gonna say core rules. It's just core rules. They're low level supers.
Yeah.
And
challenge them narratively.
Every time somebody says, I pick the bad guy up and throw them, it's just a push.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Well, yeah, somebody goes, I'm going to grab him by the ankle.
You picked the bad guy up and you threw him. The bad guy's okay with that. You're like, bam, into the wall. Ow, that hurt. Okay.
Yeah. Don't be caught off guard as a GM by your player when they go, I grabbed the wolf by its tail and swing it hammer style and let go. Okay, it's a grapple. It's a grapple. Or no, it's a push. It's a push. Opposing strength rolls. Oh, look, you got 2 raises. Yeah, the wolf goes flying 12 feet into the lake. Wait a minute, there's no rules, Savage rules for throwing. Where's the rules for throwing?
There's a skill called throwing.
There sure is.
Grapple and then throw.
You grapple and throw.
Just grapple. You just grapple or throw if you're trying to get him. Yeah, I just
throwing is used for the kid in the zombie adventure game who picks up the handful of golf balls and starts pegging zombies in the head.
That was awesome.
Because you do.
So the thing is, so let's say with this adventure thing, as a GM, do I create this over-evolving archy plot? No.
No. You create a bad guy and you decide what he wants. You're done.
Right.
And then you give yourself the freedom on occasion to be that dick GM and narrate in that the bad guy was 12 steps ahead. That yes, they beat the super plot. the bad guy's in jail, but that was really what the bad guy was intending to do, and now he's going to do something from jail. Don't do it too often, but give yourself the ability to do that, because that's what supervillains do on occasion. Is the end game was completely unforeseeable.
Right. Oh, and go ahead and feel free to do a reboot of an adventure. If they put one of the bad guys in jail 3 sessions ago, guess what? He broke out.
He broke out. He broke out. His legal team got him set free because it was vigilantes that caught him. Find something.
Oh, and not only did he break out, he broke out and teamed up with somebody else you put away in the same place. Play on the tropes. Play to the tropes.
Because when you're the mayor of Halcyon City, why wouldn't you put the superpowered bad guys together in the same cell? Because that sounds like a great idea.
Right.
Well, or you've got that supermax prison that's only there for the super bad guys. You're the low-level gritty team that's putting away a couple of low-rent thugs every week. And then the big supers team, the Avengers of Halcyon City, have one of their bad guys blow up the prison. And now you're stuck cleaning up the 30 or so of your enemies that have suddenly been released, while they're off fighting the big bad guy that was able to blow up the prison. You don't have anything to do with that, but that shit happens in this world. Be aware, your characters are not the heroes. They're just superheroes in the world.
One of my favorite things is, especially if they're gritty, street-level heroes, okay? If you're a vigilante, guess what? You are doing things that are against the law.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do the wrong thing to the wrong person or at the wrong time and get the wrong rep, guess who's going to jail? And one of my absolute favorite parts of The Watchmen is when they put Rorschach in jail. Because there's that great moment in the cafeteria when the guy's going to shiv him, and he drops him and then throws, boiling grease on him. And he goes, "The mistake you made was thinking that I was locked up in here with you. You're locked up with me!" And I was like, it's brilliant. I love that.
Okay, so plan your adventures accordingly. Remember that your story, the story of the night, of course, is created by the players at the table, like we've talked about before. But don't offer combat in every session. Don't make combat the highlight of every session. As Jim was saying earlier, cake, meat, icing. It's a means to an end. The combats should not be important either.
Run a traditional detective game.
Here's an idea. Hey, Mr. Superhero. This is the receptionist. Your girlfriend is here. My what? Your girlfriend is here. What?
Yeah, and that's another thing to really stop and think about is, again, hit them with those hindrances, but hit them the way the villains were going to hit them, and hit them the way their families are going to hit them when they don't know they're a vigilante. Mom and Pop show up to take you out to lunch the day you're stopping the bank robbery. And now you're trying to bounce between being at the table and every few seconds, let me go check in the back and see what's going on with our order. Zip over to the bank and fight some more. You have to give your players those moments that are so in the trope, so on the nose, and so hammer home that they're playing two separate characters.
So is your character Mrs. Doubtfire?
Yeah,
absolutely.
As a superhero, you are Mrs. Doubtfire. Absolutely. Absolutely. As a super, yeah.
Yeah, Mrs. Doubtfire is totally a superhero.
Yeah.
Now, when we change gears and we're going to start talking about this at the higher power level, I think there's the very first thing that comes to my mind with, like, what do you do when you are the Avengers? Well, you do the Civil War plot line, where all of a sudden you have superheroes fighting superheroes. Because you're all vigilantes and you're all standing up for a different moral code. yes, the bad guys are out there. You have to stop them, but you also might occasionally be ordered to go stop that other superhero from the other side of town or from the next town over who's branding the bad guy.
So, Captain, who's it? You're best friends with Frogman, right? Well, yes, of course. We've been allies for many years. Oh, good. We want him arrested. Go get him. What?
Right. Okay, one quick question. We did have a viewer question from Dustin. I'll put it here in the group chat. Would anyone care to read it?
Sure.
All right.
So, should GMs tell their players to create background details, kind of like the way Fate handles aspects? Maybe they need to create supporting NPCs. The villain in Civil War did a bait and switch and turned the heroes against one another. Is it possible to use Super's companion in non-super games for the high fantasy, big tech anime game?
Okay, those are three questions.
It's kind of all over the place there a little bit, but at the same time, I think I see kind of where he's coming from. And my very first response to this is no.
Yes, me too. No.
We've said this before. You want to have the description and background of your character be a blurb. It should be no more than 1 or 2 sentences. At the very most, you might give the literal definition of your origin story. Bit by radioactive spider.
Right.
From a destroyed homeworld. If you start layering in all the stuff that's supposed to come out through the first 30 issues of your comic book as the background that had already happened before the game, you've just taken away all these self-discovery moments that you and the GM can craft together.
Yes.
Yeah. That was great pod. Hold on. That was great pod. That was great pod, Chris. That was great pod.
I made these. I made these.
You just made a sign for a box. Great pod. That is great pod. Go ahead, Jim.
I scored. I win the podcast.
Achievement unlocked.
Though, when they say in their backstory, I'm from a destroyed homeworld. Anybody else from there? Anybody else get out?
See, I don't think that's
you don't have to go beyond that.
Yeah. I don't think that's necessarily even something that has to be handled at character creation, though.
No.
I think that gives the GM all kinds of directions he can go with.
Sure.
Are there any other radioactive bugs? So
General Zod got out from the destruction of your planet, too. So what's your relationship with General Zod? Okay. Thank you.
Right. Or you do this.
It's not
Or
prose.
you do this. You interlude them. You stack the deck, interlude them on their background. Yeah. So at some point you pull just a card. Club. Tell me about the tragic destruction of your homeworld. Super. The devastation that you're seeing of the half city block reminds you of the devastation of your destroyed homeworld. Tell us a short story about it. Benny.
Here's a Benny. I want your character just had a flashback to your origin. Right. Describe what happened when your homeworld blew up.
Right.
And let the player in that moment evolve their own character.
Yes.
And also, when a player suddenly, you've just handed out enough XP for an advance. And everyone's sitting there picking out the new power that they're going to add or, why they skilled up in something. In that moment right there, stop everybody at the table and have somebody tell a story about how they got that new power. Or, your character was bitten by a radioactive spider and you grew wall walking and the ability to shoot these spiderweb bolts. But now you've taken fly to represent web swinging. Great. I love that you did that. How did your character figure out they could do that?
Describe the training montage to us.
Exactly. You can evolve those characters over time very easily in this setting.
And again,
what's supposed to be
push
off-screen
on
stuff.
Yes, absolutely. And again, push on and lean on the tropes and the verbiage and the descriptives and the nature of a Super's game, because that's where you're going to find the meat of it.
Right now, don't. And I'm going to say this too. We talk a lot about interludes. I'm gonna throw something on here, something that I like to do for flavor and style. I rarely use interludes, by the way. But when I do, I would, especially in a Supers game, I would front load that story. I would go, okay, we drew, victory. There was another survivor from your devastated homeworld that you were responsible for bringing to justice.
Who was that?
Tell us about it. Because it's a story of victory, is what Spades is. Yeah. There's another survivor from your homeworld, and you were responsible for bringing him to justice. Tell us about him. What is that story? How did you bring him to justice?
And what was the justice that was brought to him?
Right. So there's nothing in the rules that say you can't preload that story or put a lean on that shit. Make it lean to one side or the other. I do want to answer one quick thing with Dustin's question about the Superpowers Companion, using it for an anime game, like a big tech anime game. Absolutely.
Oh, sure. Without a doubt.
Just skin trap that thing. It's supers, yes, but just put an anime bent on it.
And as we keep saying, you are limited only by your creativity and your imagination.
Okay, the only reason I disagree with you, gentlemen, is because he's asking if he can do this in a non-supers game. So if you're going to have anybody from the superheroes, from the Superpowers Companion in your game, you can't have regular Savage Worlds characters going up against them.
Sure you can. I disagree. Absolutely you can. Absolutely you can.
The power level is exponential, Jib.
I get that. But how many times do we see normals in superhero stories? Here's my example. Supergirl. And her foster sister.
Okay, but if your players are playing the foster sister, and you introduce Supergirl as an NPC, it's easier to GM fiat that than go through the entire Supers Companion to build that character to be that high above the player characters.
I am just saying that you can have the superhero and the normal as player characters together in the game. I'm not saying there are not going to be issues, but you can do that.
Okay, here's what I'm saying. I misread the question, and here's what I'm saying. If you want to skin the Superpowers Companion as the anime companion, go right ahead.
Yes.
Absolutely makes sense.
Just like I would say, the Savage Worlds core superpowers arcane background works perfect for things like a monk in a high fantasy game where you want the monk to have the touch of death or whatever, and you're going to layer in, the idea. I think both of those work. I hesitate to go where Jib is going, only in that the players I have, there would be some beef at the table that his character is so much more powerful than mine.
I don't get to do all that. I don't get to do all that. This isn't fair.
You had those options when you created the character.
So
you had those options. You could have done that. You chose to do what you did, and there are things that you get as a result of it.
Of course. I mean, obviously. But much like masturbating with a cheese grater, it may be an interesting sensation, but I wouldn't recommend it. Because it's going to be mostly painful.
Be aware of your players before going down the route of...
And I'm out.
I don't want to have any knowledge of my characters, my players' masturbatory practices.
I'm just saying. So let's transition into the Superpowers Companion. So if you could run this superhero game with just the core rules, why do you need the Superheroes Companion? I'm going to say this about it. Even not being a fan, I can appreciate the level that thing is put together. It allows you to do anything from Golden Power Supers that have really they're just costume detectives, not much bigger than anything else, like the Shadow or something like that, all the way up to gargantuan Silver Surfer, Galactus level type campaigns. And it does it in a very easy way and very sliding scale. Powers are not regulated by power points. There is not that stipulation on them. You buy all your powers with points like you would buy skills, but power points. You'll have to read it to kind of get what I'm saying. It's a little bit different. Go ahead, Dave. Look like you want to say something. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the other big thing with the Superpowers Companion version is you start play with all your powers. You're not going to have this drip feed of suddenly my character has a new power. You're going to start play with the full kit of being, Galactus. You're going to start with the full kit of being Silver Surfer. Your skills, your edges are going to evolve over time the way Standard Savage Worlds works, but the power set is pretty well locked in, and there's some very specific rules that lock that in place. So you're going to be Wolverine at the beginning of the campaign and at the end of the campaign.
It's all about how you spend those points.
Yeah, it's just
about how you spend those points.
Just about becoming a more skilled version of Wolverine rather than a more powerful Wolverine.
Right, and the point system is how you determine what type of game do you want to run. If you run that street level where everybody's got 1 or 2 powers, then you only give them X number of points. If you want to run that super gargantuan, everybody has 10 powers, you give them X amount of points, and then you buy your powers with those points.
Now,
right.
I will say this, for an inexperienced player, one who hasn't done supers before, character creation requires a lot more GM. Let me check your character sheet. Yeah, that's going to work out real well. Or, you've bought this, and this, and because of that, you're going to be really weak compared to everybody else in the party because you've over-diversified with your points. You can't ever increase the power level of those powers, so now you're going to be stuck at this level. You might get more skillful, but that'll never do more damage than what you're buying at it right now. So you need, as a GM, to really be there, not just supervising, but also guiding your players through character creation. Not just, that's a great character, the points add up fine. No, actually look at it, see what they've bought, and pay attention. Because you can very quickly build a character that does a lot of shit, but doesn't do anything well.
Right. Well, I'll also say this, too. I would not recommend the Superpowers Companion 2nd edition, or even the 1st edition, for a non-experienced Savage Worlds GM. You really need to have a firm grasp on the core rules before you dive into the deep end of that pool with supers.
I would almost suggest if you cannot comfortably run a game of Shaintar, Savage Rifts, if you can't run some of the stuff in Savage Worlds that already leans to the high-end scale, the Superpowers Companion is not the place to start.
Right. Now, I would say this, because the Superpowers Companion is built on Savage Worlds core rules, what you may think about doing as a intermediary step is, you know what? I'm going to pull this setting rule from that and put it into core. I'm going to take this death and defeat table and put it into core. Ooh, I like the rules for knockback. I'm going to put that into core. There's a monologue or hindrance. I'm going to add that. So you can cherry pick from the Superpowers Companion without applying the Superpowers Companion superpower kind of mechanic as a way to get used to running a supers game with more specific detail in it. Go ahead, Dave.
I was going to say I would also, as a GM, front load your prep. If you know you've got a group of players who are going to want to play a supers game, sit down and figure out, okay, my big bads in this game are going to be this guy over here who leads a clan of ninja, this guy over here who has intergalactic space lizards, and this third guy who's a criminal kingpin and has street thugs. And then build out the criminal hierarchy in advance. Have a bestiary you have put together, a rogues gallery ready to go, so that when you're at the table and your players take that left turn at Albuquerque and go off, to Savage Worlds land, where all of a sudden they're going to go talk to the coroner and be jumped by the thugs who are there from the rival gang. You can very quickly grab a set of thugs that fit that scenario, that you've put the prep in. You don't have to pause your game, pull out that more complex version of character creation, and build those enemies on the fly.
I just have to ask one thing. Why's Left Turn got to be at Albuquerque, man?
Because I grew up watching too many fucking Looney Tunes cartoons. Let's be honest. Everybody here on the panel is old enough that left turns are taken at Albuquerque.
Right. Well, that's his idiom for when everything goes tits up.
Oh, absolutely.
whatever your enemy. Oh, this is Charlie Foxtrot, or whatever the.
Whiskey Tango Foxtrot.
Yeah. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Yeah. So it's just an idiom.
Snafu.
My own particular idiom.
Idiom, sir.
So I will say this about the Superpowers Companion. A lot of fun. You can really dial that in. If you're going to run the Superpowers Companion, though, I would also just one piece of advice. There's other supers in the world. They're not necessarily, don't have to be the same power level as your heroes. But what could possibly be better as a GM to have a bank robbery where all the guys who look like normal, everyday humans and then blah, 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 doing a bank robbery, and the players, they overestimate, rush in, and next thing you know, they all transform into werewolves or whatever.
Playing in a Supers game not long ago, very early on, literally opening scene, we were finishing up a fight with a bad guy, and we took him out and saved because we were teenage superheroes, and we saved the adult superheroes who were getting their asses handed to them. Okay? But when the news report comes out, guess who gets the credit?
Right.
The adults. Oh, we were so pissed. We were so mad. It was like, I was livid.
I think that's another thing that make sure as a GM you go into the game with a strength of character to say, hey, real world consequences aren't always favorable. Yes, you absolutely saved Mrs. Smith's child. But Mrs. Jones' child was in the next building over, and you didn't save them. So your characters just did the phenomenal. You won the day. You beat the scenario. You're at the end of it. And then the little old lady covered in dust, burned clothing, tears streaking her face, holding her dead child in her arms, is standing in front of you, pointing a finger in your face in front of a reporter. End scene. See you guys next week. And punch them with the shit that happens to a superhero that's a real challenge that really, really makes them go, now what do I do? Because now you've got a superhero who is suddenly hated by the entire city.
Going back to, I recently watched the Supergirl TV show on Netflix and enjoyed it. But the part of the show where she is the most upset and the most engaged is when she inadvertently got drugged by some, cosmic drug, and her evil self came out for like a day. And now everybody in the city is like, oh, we don't trust Supergirl anymore. We don't believe in Supergirl anymore. We don't trust Supergirl at all anymore. Right. And it was like, oh, that hurt.
Well, and you can do this mechanically. Okay, so mechanically, hey, the dickhead editor of the newspaper has his own private agenda against you, and he's running that picture of the woman holding her dead child, blah blah blah, and plastering it front page everywhere.
Spider-Man.
Well, guess what? Now, when you ask for a citizen's help or somebody's help, Boo! You just basically are carrying around the outsider hindrance for a little while because of that bad press.
Enemy
Nobody
major
can help
until
you.
until you can do something to get rid of
Right.
it.
Right.
Enemy
You have to
major
prove yourself
media
back.
mogul.
You have to prove yourself to the people again.
Right, and here's the thing. Dave and I have said this before. Hindrances can be applied by the GM when it's appropriate to the story. So in that situation, I need you all to write down the following on your character sheet. Enemy major, media mogul. Because he's got it out for your team. He is going to run a smear campaign. He's already started running a smear campaign.
You guys just ran a perfectly successful mission. But I need you to jot down on your character sheet, wanted minor, U.S. government, because what you didn't know is one of the bad guys that you beat up was an undercover agent, and he's just had to file a report about the vigilantes that blew a 3-year investigation into the drug cartel that you stopped.
Yeah.
Right.
Or, oh, you're all mutants. All of you now have the hindrance, wanted government, because they want to snag you. You don't know why, but they totally have it in for all mutants. They don't like mutants at all. Sucks to be you.
All right. I think we sufficiently answered this topic. Let me check.
I think it's a glue pot.
I think it's all good.
So I'm going to do one last fairy dust over the top of this thing that is going to at least make Jared smile. The next time you want to do something completely off the wall for your players and you haven't ever tried to do anything with supers, go play Star Wars and have everybody buy their blaster as the bolt power and all the Jedi by telekinesis and just go to town. Play it 100% as a supers game.
I agree.
Intriguing.
Absolutely makes sense.
It's just a fun thing to do for your players because they all know the references, the in-jokes. You don't have to worry about whether or not they get supers, but that supers power kit that Pinnacle has put together can do a lot more than just comic book superheroes. It can do the anime. It can do Star Wars. It can do a lot. Have fun with it.
Absolutely. Because the one thing that you will find as a Savage World player and a Savage Worlds GM, the key word to remember about everything Savage Worlds is trappings. We don't care what it looks like. All we care about is what the mechanical effect is. Go fucking sick. A lightsaber could do chainsaw damage. It's fine. It's okay. Use the stats from a chainsaw for a lightsaber. It's fine. Well, then what about what it needs to cut through when you put it in? It has different preference. Cut through a steel door. Okay, give me a dramatic task. Using strength. I'm done. Or just, you know what? Better yet, it takes 3 rounds for it to melt through. Done.
It's got an object toughness and a number of wounds it has to take, and you have a weapon that does damage. Done.
Go.
This problem has been solved.
It has a 2 parry because it's an inanimate object. Can you beat a 2 parry? Yes. Great. Now, roll the damage. Oh, it's got object toughness of 24 because it's plaid steel or whatever. So just the thing is, please, as players,
don't roll
GMs,
dice if you don't need to.
Yes, don't take everything so literally. And it's trappings. What'll work, what fits.
This ain't your granddaddy's role-playing game, kids.
Exactly. I don't need a complex rule compendium for lightsabers. Thank you. And not for Savage Worlds anyway, which is one of the reasons why I play it. So that's the show. So until next time, this is Jared Savage Daddy Gunning for Chris, the Savage Mommy Fox, Dave, the Rules Raven Scott, and Jib saying keep rolling and stay savage.